Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe P. Zapia, and today we're going to take a look at the NBA Finals. That's right, we got here, and of course, who better to talk about the NBA Finals with than the guy that brought us to the Finals? We got here with Dane Martinez. Follow him on the Twitter machine right now, if you don't already, the Spittin' Speeds, and that's a Z at the end because he's way cooler than me. Dane, here we go. So we got the Finals here, and I remember doing a show with you not that long ago, a few weeks back, previewing the playoffs and everything that was going to go on here. We ended up with the Miami Heat. The Lakers did have their run, as we said that they would. They got hot at the right time. We were right about that. They fell short. The Celtics fell short. We get the Denver Nuggets on the other side of this one, too. So, obviously, the Nuggets were one of the heavy favorites coming in. The Suns went by the wayside. Some of the other teams, like the Milwaukee Bucks we talked about, went by the wayside. So you nailed that. So now you have an obligation, everyone, I feel like, to nail the finals. Are you up for it, my friend?
I'm up for it. I'm up to swing. We'll see if we make contact. I did, however, tell you that I thought the Nuggets were being undersold as the number one seed in the West, as the team that was kind of dominant all season because they didn't have, the sexy big name. But now I think more and more of the kind of laymen and normal casual NBA fans are really getting to see what Nikola Jokic can do to impact a game and kind of how they play the beautiful game even more than his back-to-back MVP seasons a few years ago.
Yeah, it absolutely is true. And look, it's been a fun playoffs here because you've had some of those possibilities. I know some people were kind of hoping for the old school Celtics Lakers. That would have been theoretically probably very good for the casual fan, but we're here for the basketball. That's what we're here for. And we're going to talk about the preview as a whole of the finals, and we'll get a little bit into game one, which is coming up in just a few days here as we're recording this. So let's start here with the finals number. The Heat are obviously underdogs here, plus 330 to win the whole thing. The Nuggets minus 480. There's a lot of juice. So the Nuggets are clearly the favorite team. Now, Miami did kind of let the Celtics back in it. We all know that happened.
Yeah.
But they handled their business at the end. A few health issues to worry about. But let's talk about the layoff, too, because I know a lot of people, especially early on, are slightly concerned about the Nuggets having to sit around and wait because we've seen teams many times come out flat, whether it be for a half or a whole game or maybe an entire series. So do you have any fear, especially when it's such a heavy favorite side here with the Denver Nuggets?
So, I think it depends on what your time horizon is here, Joe. In the entire series, no. In game one, not really. Maybe they win but don't cover. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, I'm sure. But in like the first half on Thursday or the first quarter on Thursday, yes. In that situation, I could see the Heat kind of coming out hotter, shall we say, in the idea of rest versus rust. I could see maybe Denver getting out a little bit slow, maybe instead of the 8.5 or whatever you're laying in game one for the whole game, look at the first half markets. And if you could still get Miami by 4.5 or 5 there I might be more interested because I do think there'll be a small amount of rust, but nothing that, as we zoom out in the big picture, is actually going to infect the Nuggets, in my opinion.
All right, so if you like the Nuggets, obviously the juice is ridiculous. So how do you approach it instead? Do you look for the total games number too? Because we have to win in 4, plus 430, in 5, plus 185. That seems to be where the public is right now. In 6 games, plus 240, and then 7 games all the way, plus 240 as well. So is it better, if you like the Nuggets, to just go to the games instead, go to that finals total games rather than just bet the Nuggets at this heavy juice number?
Yeah, that would be one way I would do it. I would not just bet them with the, minus whatever it is, almost 400 to win this.
It's a lot.
I would not do that, right? And hopefully nobody watching this would make that kind of their MO either. So no, I think you're on the right track here, Joe. When I look at the 5-game series or the 6-game series, that's kind of where I am as well. Far better, numbers, and plus territory for you to do it. But I would suggest something a little bit different. They also offer the series spread. Okay, Joe, and you can get Denver minus 1.5 games, right? So that pretty much means that Denver wins and it does not go to 7, because even if they take care of Miami 4-2, you would still win that bet. And that dramatically changes the juice. The last time I saw over on FanDuel, Denver minus 1.5 games is like minus 160. Still a fair amount of juice, slightly more than I would like to play, but certainly not at the number that you were talking about. And the reason I say that is because I'm vacillating right now on if I like it as Denver in 5 or Denver in 6. And so to go your way, I would have to cover both of those options. Here, I get Denver whether they win in 4 or in 5 or in 6. I understand that minus 160 is still not, great. It is still juice, but it's, cutting it in more than half. So in the series, that's the way I would go. If I had to say one specifically, it would be 5. Okay, it would be 5. I do believe Denver can win the 2 at home. Then I think Miami, as we've seen, they are tough. They are battle tested. Right. They have pride. I think they will win 1 in Miami, but then going back to Denver, I think Denver can close it out in 5. I would hesitate against the 6 because if it gets to that game, it would be back in South Beach, leaving Miami with a better chance, right? So if I had to say 1, it would be Nuggets in 5. But I think the better way to do it is to look at that series spread, which pretty much covers you unless it goes to 7 games.
Whenever Dane Martinez starts to vacillate, everybody should pay attention. That's sure. Always what I say. I kind of live by that. All right, let's get to the Finals MVP too. Obviously, Jokic is at minus 320, Jimmy Butler at plus 330, Jamal Murray at plus 1200. Those are really the top 3 on the board. Yeah. Is there any value here in this wager for you at all?
So, no is the answer to your question, right? No. But if I had to put a bet somewhere in this market, and I'm not necessarily saying that I think you should, the name would be Jamal Murray for me. Again, I'm not picking Jokic at that number. I do believe Denver will win the championship, so I'm not taking a Jimmy Butler, a Bam, anybody on Miami. And then I look to who is anybody, a non-Jokic Nugget that I could see a narrative for. Right. And the only one that would come to mind is Jamal Murray. He's had a great playoffs as well. I think I told you, Joe, a couple of times back that the most important player in the Western Conference playoffs would be Jamal Murray. And I said that because we all knew what Jokic was going to do. But I said, if Murray returns to that bubble form, that pre-injury form, then Batman would have his Robin and Denver would get to the finals. That's in essence what has happened. We've seen 40-point games from Murray, great shooting performances. So if Denver wins the Larry O'Brien Trophy, it will probably be Jokic. But the only other player that I could craft a narrative for is Jamal Murray. So the question is, I think he's at 12-1 or something like that.
12-1. So you don't have to put a lot on it. You can put one unit and still make a big return.
Yeah, and
if
I
you
think
want to speculate, and it's not a big deal. Right.
I think that's viable, right? But, that's if you hold my hand and twist it and force me to say that there's somewhere where there is value. Because to be quite honest, I think the correlation of Nuggets winning the championship and Jokic winning the MVP is almost 1-to-1. But if you want to play in this market, Murray would be the choice for me.
All right. What about when it comes to scoring leader for the finals too? Obviously, Jokic at the top there. Jimmy Butler is at plus 170. Jokic is at plus 110. So he's looking at plus money on him. And then Jamal Murray at plus 260. Do you have any feelings on this one, or is this a stay away too?
This is sort of a stay away here. I think the Jokic number is a little bit more palatable. So if you want to try that, go ahead. But it's hysterical, Joe. Okay, you've seen the odds now for Jokic to be the leading scorer? Have you seen the odds for Jokic to be the leading rebounder and to be the leading assist guy? It's literally minus 20,000 to 1. You know what I mean? So they think that this guy is going to be the leading assist getter in this series, even more than points. And I think that speaks to the greatness of what we're seeing out of the Joker so far. But these markets are not exactly where I would go because they are dominated by Jokic. When it comes to the player props, I think I'm more comfortable trying to see what I understand in these matchups when these two teams get together and trying to find out more game-by-game player props where I do think there are some options because I do think this is a very interesting matchup of teams and styles and players that could create some opportunity in those props.
Now, if you've got predictions, we want you to drop them in the comments below. We love hearing from you on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, subscribe to Betting Pros, because when you do and you drop a comment below, you could win a free premium upgrade, or you can just go to bettingpros.com/premium upgrade right now if you want to. But it's always fun to win free stuff. So go ahead and give a shot at it. But Betting Pros Premium has obviously all the big bells and whistles on the tools, tracking your bets, all the sync technology, everything that you get. You could also just download the app for free and use it as well. But the premium is really where it's at if you're taking this seriously. And I know if you're watching these shows that you do. So before we get to game one preview, one more thing to ask you, which is another fun wager out there with some huge, huge numbers on it, right? It's the exact order of the wins and losses, which is a fun one. So I don't know what you approach on this, because, we're talking about, plus plus like 11,000, right?
Oh, yeah.
Plus 4,800. These are huge numbers you're getting on these bets. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's, game one, you think Miami wins, then you have to get game two right, game three right. So you could just kind of spread a bunch of units over this and just try to find the combination of ones that you like. Is this something that you would even entertain doing if you have the capital to do it? Because it is some big returns, especially if you have a real good feel potentially on the first few. Because if you get the first few right on a spot like FanDuel, you have that cash out option where all of a sudden you can still make money on this and don't have to see it all the way through.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. With the cash out option, I think that is a little bit better. And then what you could do, like you said, if you nailed the first three, right, you could also hedge by game betting against what you've already laid out as 100%. The blueprint, right? So first of all, can you imagine whoever it was that might have nailed this for the Eastern Conference Final? Like, what were the odds to go Miami, Boston, and then Miami on the road in game 7? If you have that ticket, do me a favor, hit me and Joe up with a screenshot of that, and my man's going to give you like a Betting Pro subscription or something like that, because you deserve it.
I want to subscribe to that person.
Right?
I want to sub to them.
Right?
But you're 100% right. Like, I think the hedging is where you hit the nail on the head, because if you get a couple of them right, then you can start, playing around with it. But it's so tempting, Dane, because these numbers are just enormous that you're getting on these. And, and FanDuel is one of those sites where you can cash out, and they have this wager. So this is why you use Betting Pros and the app, because you can find these things out there. Go ahead, Dane.
Yeah. So I told you when I thought it was going to be Denver in 5 or 6, right? I gave you a little bit of insight as to kind of what I thought the roadmap to this would be. And in essence, if you're willing to, and with these kind of odds, and if you're going to play in this market, you're not doing this and covering one option. Okay.
No, you're not covering one option.
Ticket, right?
And the juice is so heavy on Denver. The juice is so heavy on Denver that you can't just do it outright. So you got to get more clever. And I think that's what we're trying to do here.
So this could be, if you're willing to put out 4 or 5 different permutations, right? Then I think you have a way to do this. And by the way, permutation, another buzzword of the day, okay? With vacillate, my friend. We're getting the whole vocabulary.
It's on the word of the day, toilet paper. I've got
for sure. It's like Pee Wee Herman's secret word. We're all going to go crazy at some point. But I do think Denver wins the first 2 at home, okay? And then I think Miami gets one of the 2 back in Miami. So that's already just a couple, right? Going Denver, Miami, Denver, or Denver, Miami, right? And then similarly, I think if Denver is on the precipice when it goes to game 5, that's the one to cover. That's what I do think happens, right? Denver, Miami, Denver is pretty much what I think. If you think Miami has a little bit more fight in them, then you could play with some more permutations that get it to game 6. I don't think this is going to go 7, and that's because of the matchups that I was telling you. I think this is a bad matchup for Miami on a number of levels. So I would do this short of 7 games, and I would figure out, do you think Miami can win both at home, or do they split it, meaning that Denver would be on the precipice at home in game 5? I think that's the kind of way you have to think about it if, in fact, you like Denver. If you like Miami, then just take them in the series price.
All right, let's take a quick look at game 1 here. Obviously, the Nuggets are heavy favorites, favored by 8.5 right now. On the spread, they are at home. The total for this game is 219.5 as we're recording this. Now that could change potentially. If you like Miami on the upset and the potential for, the flat Denver Nuggets potentially to come out after the layoff, well, you're getting plus 310 on the money line. Otherwise, how do you approach this game right here in game 1, Dane?
Sure. So, like I said, I think Miami in the first half, Miami in the first quarter, those are numbers that
Mhm.
I'd be interested in. Getting a Miami plus a 3 in the first quarter, getting Miami plus a 4.5 or 5 in the first half. That's the way I think you could play it because I do believe that maybe the rust will be there early. I mean, Miami is hot right now. Caleb Martin, for example, against these Boston Celtics, went 22 of 45 from beyond the arc. That's basically just a hair shy of 50%. I don't know if that's sustainable, but I know it's hot right now, right? So I can see Miami getting out to a lead and Denver kind of coming
Mhm.
back. Ultimately, I would take Miami in the points in this game. I think Denver wins this game, but I don't know if they cover. They played each other twice in the regular season. Okay, once in February, that was in Miami, and the Nuggets won by 4. That was a 112-108 kind of game. All right. Then they
Mhm.
also played in December in Denver, and that was a 5-point Nuggets win in Denver. That game was 124-119. And I can see Denver ultimately winning game one by the same kind of margin, 4, 5, 6 points. We've also seen that Miami is not going to let go of the rope. You know what I mean? Miami is going to
Sure.
kind of make a run. They are going to keep it close. They are going to fight back. So if I get 8.5 points, I see it even at 9 in some places. It may climb before they actually put the ball in the air. I would take those points in game one because I think Denver will win, but I do not think they will cover. And I do think this is just a bad matchup for Miami because I
Mhm.
don't know if they stay hot like they have been against against Boston. And also, if you saw the Eastern Conference Finals, Joe, Boston sort of reverted into a hero ballish kind of team. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum's just taking their turns, right? Who was going to, take it to the hole? Who was going to put up the early in the shot clock jumper? Only when Boston got back to what they do well with ball movement, right? With swinging it,
Mhm.
making the extra pass. That's what they did in games 4, 5, 6. That's what gave Miami trouble. And quite frankly, that's how Denver has played the entire time. One of the beautiful parts about Jokic as this like point center is he initiates the offense. It is not stagnant. You don't have people dribbling for, 10 seconds in the shot clock. The ball is always in motion, and that has given Boston some fits. Miami some fits. I think the Denver offense plays to a bad matchup for Miami. And so I do think Denver will be able to score. That's why I would also take the over in the game. I know this idea of
Mhm.
like the feeling out process early
Mhm.
on, the idea of rust early on, but I just gave you the scores of both of their
Mhm.
regular season matchups, which went above what I believe is 219.5, which is the
Yep.
number. And I think that flow will continue because that is who Denver has been all season. And I think they will kind of get back into that flow relatively quickly.
One last thing you mentioned about how hot Caleb Martin has been.
Yeah.
He is at plus 200 right now on the board to score 20 or more points. You think he can hit that number at that 2-1?
So here's the thing. Wait. We need to wait for this with Miami because, Joe, if you were watching the Eastern Conference Finals, they were talking a lot about these undrafted players of the Miami Heat, right? There was Martin, there was Gabe
Mhm.
Vincent, there's Duncan Robinson, there's, Strus as well. And they have been making a lot of the kind of potential of the Miami Heat. However, Miami expects the return of Tyler Hero for this series. Hero broke his hand all the way
Mhm.
back in the Milwaukee series, and everyone's saying, "Oh, he's done for the year." Why? Because people assumed that Milwaukee was going to advance. There is a chance for Tyler Hero to come back in these NBA finals, and this is a guy who was like the second leading scorer on the team at 20, 21 points a game, and I just wonder what that's going to mean for the usage rate, the
Sure.
touches, the shots of guys like Martin and a Vincent and a Strus and a Robinson, because Hero demands that attention and deserves it, right? So I would actually lean towards fading some of those guys that have picked up the slack in the absence of Oladipo and Hero until we see if Hero is back and how many minutes he may get. So I don't know if I'm touching props with any of those other guys for Miami, at least in the point side.
And make sure that as you're placing wagers on the NBA Finals, you do it through the BettingPros app. It's the easiest way to do it. Plus, you can also track all your bets. You sync all your sportsbook, and then you'll know all the sportsbooks you've synced, how you're doing. You can also track some of the people who have been really good this year picking NBA. That's always a great feature as well. So again, so many tools for you to be successful in this betting market. That's what we're here to do. Regardless of your comfort level in the sports, if you're somebody who likes to bet on sports, we've got you covered, and we can get you the smartest potential wagers in there too, between the people that you could track on there, between tracking your own bets and your own successes. And again, make sure it's free. You download that, and if you want to, you go to Betting Pros. Too many Fantasy Pro shows today. BettingPros.com/premium. That's the place to go. Premium on BP, and of course, we still have that amazing opportunity at BetMGM. When you use the promo code JUICE, you can get paid back up to $1,000 in free bonus bets there. So again, the promo code is JUICE at BetMGM. You sign up there. You can link BetMGM up to your BP app, and it's just an easy thing to do. Like, it's always easy to talk NBA with Dane Martinez. Dane, always a pleasure having you on the show. As always, we always feel much more empowered after speaking to you about the NBA, and you can follow him on the Twitter machine at Spittin' Speeds. He is the best. So Dane, great stuff as always. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Dane Martinez, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy the NBA Finals.